Hello, hello, everybody. Happy New Year's. Welcome back. 2024 starting strong. Crazy week in crypto already. So, I'm sure everybody is paying attention now to the space and some excitement. Today was probably less excitement, but welcome back to the Hideout. We are here for episode 55, starting off a new year the right way with some awesome guests and an awesome panel to talk about Web3 gaming and the Metaverse. So before we get into our panel introductions and into the questions, I'll do a quick introduction of myself. And I know, we have a lot of people who watch the recorded version, and I'm sure even more today, given that a lot of people are still on holiday and, it's just getting back to things. We're gonna see more people there. But for those of you who are here live, we will have a giveaway at the end of the spaces. So make sure that you stick around. But without further ado, my name is Nick Frontera. For those of you who don't know me, I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legion's 2029 game. At this point, I've been in the Web3 space for quite some time, since 2017. Really have enjoyed building in this space. Before that, I was a lawyer in the entertainment industry. So NFTs just made sense as kind of the future of digital creation. And, ever since then, I've kind of been totally engulfed in the NFT and Web3 space. For those of you who are new to Satoshiverse or who may not know what we're building, it is a blockchain-themed superhero universe. We are a community of people who love comics, who love the Web3 space, and who specifically love gaming in the Metaverse, which is why we do these weekly spaces and bring on some awesome panelists. Within the Satoshiverse, we, for the last 2 years, have been building our game, Legion's 2029, which is a fast-paced third-person hack and slash PC game, which is fully blockchain enabled. So all the things you do in game, whether it's leveling up your avatars, getting items, have the option to be minted out as NFTs and stored on the blockchain, which is something we've been working real hard to kind of give a first look at how blockchain technology can be used natively within a PC-based game built on Unreal Engine 5. So super high fidelity, really cool art, really cool story. If you haven't checked it out, I've pinned a tweet to the top of the spaces. That'll give you some background on the game itself, show you some of the trailers, but it'll also mention that we just announced our alpha mainnet launch, which is coming January 23rd. And I won't go too deep into it, but I'll hit a couple high levels. This is going to be our launch on Polygon proof of stake. It's the point where everything starts to count in the game. So we've been in testnet phase for about 9 months. And now we're moving to mainnet, where if you level up your character, it's going to count. If you get some items, they're going to count. They're going to be there forever on the blockchain. So really excited about that. As part of the launch, you're going to be able to mint a custom avatar for free. So you'll just sign up, you'll download. The game itself is free to play. You'll just go to the website, you'll download the game, you'll get in there, you'll create your avatar, which will have the ability to customize it with all different things like the hair color and the skin color and the clothing, all sorts of stuff. But you'll also be able to put a patch on it, like a hero patch, from one of our 40 or so partner communities that we have. And you'll also be able to mint that. As soon as you reach level 5, you'll be able to mint that for free. We'll airdrop it over to you on Polygon, and you'll have a custom NFT just for playing the game. The other thing I want to mention, if you haven't already, go to our website, sign up for a Legion's 2029 account on Satoshiverse. I'm sorry, game.satoshiverse.io, which is also in the information. By doing that before the launch, you'll be able to get access to a custom or a special clothing texture that you can see in the post. Those are really cool and are only going to be available to people who sign up before the launch. So all the other details, we're going to have some speedrun tournaments with prizes, lots of cool stuff that we're announcing in the coming weeks leading up to January 23rd. But I won't go too much deeper into that because I want to get into our awesome panel who has joined us here today and are taking the time. So thank you so much. Let's do some introductions for those who don't know what you're building. And I know we've got two very different but very cool communities that we've had on in the past and are doing some just great stuff in this space. So why don't we start with Sean over at Comics and Crypto. Tell us about Comics and Crypto and what you're up to, and Happy New Year to you. I hope you had an awesome New Year.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much. Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. And thanks so much for having me. And to everyone out there, if you don't know of our podcast, we're called the Comics and Crypto Podcast. And we're a podcast that focuses on physical and digital collectibles and kind of just bridge the worlds together and try to figure out the connection. And it's been a lot of fun over the past couple of years talking about digital collectibles and how they relate to the physical space and to find the connections in between. And yeah, very excited to talk about today's topic. And thanks again for having me, Nick. And congrats on the launch.
Amazing. Well, we're glad to have you back, and of course, having Spencer on our team and the crossover there is great. So we get to stay tuned on everything you guys are doing too. So really, really happy to have you, and always happy to have you guys and hear what awesome stuff you guys are doing. Let's go over to Nine Lives Arena. We got Ralph over there. Can you tell us about what you guys are building? I saw the trailers. Looks awesome. And I know you got a launch that just happened or is coming up. So tell us about it.
Hello, guys. First of all, thanks for having me, and I wish everybody a great, healthy, successful 2024. Yeah, so for us, the year ended with with a crunching period because we launched actually in the Epic Store. So my name is Ralph. I'm the CEO and producer of Nine Lives Arena, and we launched our beta on the Epic Store on the 27th. And yeah, we have been working 7 years as a small indie team towards this, and it's kind of surreal when you finally launch a feature complete game on the Epic Store. And we're launching in their early access program with the beta. So now we still have some wiggle space to polish things and making sure the service is stable and everything. But so far, so good. Everything has worked out well. We didn't really crash and burn with the launch. And we started marketing on the 8th of January. And then throughout the year, we are focused on really turning from a development team into a live service team and building out the game from there as an esports, because it's a 1v1 focused PvP game, a competitive online RPG. And it's now all about running the game, operating it, and growing the user base. So it's a completely, we're kind of morphing into a different kind of environment, and for that 2024 it's like super duper exciting.
Amazing. Well, yeah, totally cool to hear that you guys have been building for so long and have gotten the game, at least in beta, out the door. I know firsthand how difficult that is and what that journey looks like. So really, really awesome to see and awesome that you guys have started to integrate Web3 features and made that part of your game experience, just because, obviously if you were building 7 years ago, that might not have been part of the plan. So that's really cool that you were able to take something that you'd been working on and enhance it using Web3. And I'm excited to hear more about how that's happening as we get into some of the questions. I guess last, let's introduce Spencer. Spencer, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Nick. What's going on, guys? So my name is Spencer Vogel. I am the business development manager here with Apollo Entertainment in the Satoshiverse. Been working with the team for the last 2.5, almost coming up on 3 years now, maybe. It's been a while. It's been a wild ride. And then I'm also co-host of the Comics and Crypto podcast with Sean over here. So very excited to have Sean up here on the panel, and of course Ralph as well. I think I told Ralph this before, but I was very excited to see your progress with the game, because I invested in your Kickstarter back in, it must have been 2018 or 29, way back. So I still have my Oogie, I still have my original crafting recipes, very exclusive crafting recipes. So I'm excited to give the game a try at some point over the next week when I get a chance. But getting into the format for today, we're going to start off with a question for everyone in the group. I'll call on someone to start, and then we can just have everyone jump in from there, just to get the discussion going. And then we're going to do some individual questions for each of you guys, and then we'll get into some more questions for the group at the end. And then lastly, as Nick mentioned in the intro, we're going to be doing a giveaway for everyone who's listening live. So make sure to stick around until the end to win one of our Satoshiverse collectibles. Getting into our first question here. Oh, and then I'm not sure if Nick mentioned this before, but if either of you guys have anything to pin to the top, anything do you want to share, any gameplay footage, anything like that, giveaways, anything you got going on, feel free to pin that to the top up here for everyone to see. So getting into the first question, and maybe Sean, you could start us off on this one. What impact do you think advancements in hardware for virtual reality and augmented reality will have on Web3, especially in areas like gaming and digital collectibles?
So last year when Apple announced the Apple Vision Pro, give that incredible presentation, that's, for the past couple of years, we've been talking about this kind of technology, how it's going to help Web3. And we we haven't really seen any companies kind of, or at least companies like Apple, create this type of technology. When we finally saw it come to fruition, it was pretty chilling in a great way, you know. I'm really excited to see what this kind of technology is going, how it's going to be implemented with especially digital collectibles. For the past couple of years, we've been involved with a few companies that have digital collectibles that you can utilize in AR, and I think a lot of people don't really realize how innovative these companies have been. You know, one of them is Vivi, and they're all licensed digital collectibles, digital collectibles with like Disney and Marvel and DC. And having this type of technology is going to be really, really impressive for a lot of people. You know, especially this kind of technology in AR when you can use them at parks. I know that SeaWorld announced, so they didn't really announce it, it's unofficial, but they on LinkedIn, I think they made a post about how they're looking for someone to help with their no, it's not play and earn, it's ride and earn style of, uh, it's a, basically you can go on different rides and you can earn collectibles by going on rides through probably likely geolocated drops. So I remember a couple of years ago we were at Disneyland and we were talking about this, how incredible it would be if you can go on certain rides and you can get these digital collectibles. But being able to use those digital collectibles with AR technology, being able to go to parks and see it, not just the physical space, but also an added digital layer as well. You know, seeing, you know, Star Wars vehicles fly through the sky, or you know, see robots kind of like going through the parks. It adds a whole new dimension of experience for people, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to be implemented for a lot of these big companies.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that right now, and probably for the last, gosh, 10 years that I've been kind of fanboying about this space, um, there's been kind of a clear divide between the physical world and the digital world, and things that you want to experience digitally, you experienced in a very closed environment. You know, it was either on your computer screen or your phone, or with the advent now of what Oculus did, I guess Meta, in the last couple of years with our first introduction to VR, right? And what that created was what would be the, I think, is the beginning of a bridge between the physical world and the digital world. And I think that as the technology gets better, what we're really going to see is that bridge become more and more seamless, right? People aren't going to distinguish so differently between what's in the digital world, what's in the physical world, because you're going to have this augmented reality, right? That's what it's all about. And I think that, at some point it's going to be a contact lens. At some point it's going to be laser projected over your eyes, right? I still think we are so far from that seamless technology. But I think it, like you said, seeing Apple get involved in the space and knowing, that they probably have a 10-year roadmap for, not just what to release, but how to monetize it along the way, gives you a little bit of faith that sure, the Apple Vision Pro is clunky, and sure, it doesn't seem like it really has a purpose trying to be a hybrid machine. At least that was my opinion of it. And I probably won't spend $3,000 on it. But what that means, right? The fact that Apple, they don't just dip their toes into things, right? There's a plan. There's a vision of this integrated world. And I think that's going to be one of those for better or for worse type of things, right? I think there's going to be a point where we are so plugged in to the tech that all this really is seamless, and we walk by things and it's fairly indistinguishable what is real and what isn't real. And I think that's going to lead to us having tons of potential new experiences. I mean, I was on a plane the other day and I just rewatched Ready Player One. Now, I probably saw it for the first time in 2017, 2018, right when it came out. And then I saw it again now, having been in the metaverse and NFT space, for all these years. And it really kind of struck different, because you see kind of how Web3 is going to underpin that entire digital economy that's going to emerge. And so when we're talking about, digital collectibles and gaming and really how this all ties together, I like to think about when we're talking about AR gaming and VR gaming, I like to think about just gamified experiences, right? And I think you're going to see that from brand interactions all the way to feature length games that utilize AR and VR. Companies are going to want people to enjoy interacting with their products and services in a new way, right? And so I think there's going to be an entirely new product market for gamified experiences that are digitally native that's going to emerge that just doesn't exist right now because of limitations in the hardware. And so I know, as a studio, that's certainly something that we're preparing for and are excited about. How do we become part of that movement? How do we do some really cool things with creatives, with artists to kind of take experiences and really blow people's minds and show them things that haven't been possible before because the hardware hasn't been there yet. So I'm personally super excited about that. But like when we talk about digital collectibles, like you were saying, whether it's licensed collectibles or totally new IPs like the ones we're building and what Nine Lives is building, the global access of your idea from the get-go, if you're talking digital, is just going to continue to increase and increase and increase as the hardware becomes not only better but more affordable, more accessible. And it's going to be this situation where it might have been impossible to ship physical products to certain areas of the world. Like I could create a $4 action figure, but there's no way I'm going to be able to keep the cost under $25 if I ship it to certain parts of the world. But with digital, as long as there's something that they can own that collectible in, right? Like I can quote unquote ship that to anywhere. So now you have this new area of people being able to interact with IPs that, it just wasn't worth it to that IP before to target that market. Now you've got entire markets that potentially become, consumers of these new IPs. So I really think it's going to revolutionize access to collectibles, to digital art, to all sorts of things as we build that bridge between the digital and physical world.
I love that you talked about accessibility, and that's something that we really talk about a lot with digital collectibles, and we've seen that in the physical space as well. It's a big barrier to entry for physical collectibles. There's horror stories. Like there was a guy who bought a graded Pokemon game that was worth $5,000, and he shipped it to the United States. This entered U.S. Customs, and they smashed it to pieces. No rhyme or reason. They just smashed it to pieces, destroyed the game, sent it to the buyer because they thought something was probably inside of it. But that's the fear that a lot of people have worldwide for physical collectibles, and that's why digital collectibles, it's amazing being able to buy, sell, and even trade or rent these collectibles instantly worldwide it's a really big opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. Ralph, what do you think on this?
Okay, so on VR and augmented reality in relation to NFTs?
Yep. Yeah, just generally how, advances in those technologies are going to affect the way that we consume and build in this space, in NFTs and gaming and digital art generally.
Well, I love VR personally. I got the CV1, the first Oculus for PC when it came out, and I still have the Quest 1, and I'm gonna upgrade eventually to the Quest 3, which I really like. As a user experience, VR is just super exciting to me. I played like 3,000 hours in VR on Elite Dangerous. So when you have a great game and in VR it's so immersive, it just takes you out of the normal world like no other media, right? When you watch a movie, you still see everything around you and you get distracted. Can get immersed with a big screen, but in VR you're really truly in a different space. So that's super exciting. When it comes to NFTs, I don't think VR or augmented reality have an advantage over traditional games. You need a great game, ideally an online game, multiplayer game, and when you have great utilities, NFTs are super exciting and can bring something to the table to any kind of game, whether that's VR or augmented reality, or whether you play it on the mobile phone or on a PC or on a console. So in that respect, I don't see they are moving the NFT space forward. But in general, in terms of user experiences for gaming and all of that, there's a lot of exciting things around VR and immersion. But where that goes, yes, like you said, like you mentioned, having it like laser on your eyes or something, or maybe one day we have data link, right? We connect directly into it. There are pros and cons, of course, to that. But yeah, to me as a gamer, VR is amazing, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I personally, I think I'm more excited about AR than VR, but I also haven't played enough in VR to really, I don't know, maybe fully understand the capabilities of it. But like looking at like the success of like, I don't know, like Pokemon Go, it's like we've already seen AR has had major success in the gaming world, and people are interested in it. We need that hardware technology to catch up to make it so that you don't actually have to hold up your phone in an environment to be able to play the games, that you can actually just go ahead and interact. But like I'm really excited for the gaming applications. Like even I envision like something like paintball, where you're actually in a physical space, or like like a huge kind of like warfare type environment, and you're running around with a fake gun or whatever, and instead of actually shooting paintballs, you're playing the game, but you're seeing all the things that you would see in that environment, but you actually get to run around and be active. And I'm sure great application for like military training and stuff like that. So honestly, probably the technology will probably get funded from that side. I wouldn't be surprised.
It feels.
Yeah, I remember when I was. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, no,
Sorry.
go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say I remember as a kid playing laser tag and going to these huge gyms at, I guess it was like Dave and Buster's or maybe another place, and they had like the laser tag area, and you'd get the vest, you'd get the gun, didn't actually shoot anything, and it was usually these like pretty dark spaces with some glow in the dark stuff that we would run around as kids, and that was super fun, right? And then that actually did evolve into paintball and some of the stuff that actually hurt when you were playing it. But I think about those laser tag days, and I think, what if that laser tag was Call of Duty style AR, and you're still running around with a game that, that has these like little fake guns, and you're shooting like Spencer was saying. But it's exactly that concept. And, I've been to, there's a VR park in Dubai that in the mall, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's very early stages, and you still get pretty nauseated on a lot of the rides, but there are definitely moments where you kind of forget that you're in virtual reality and you're not in the real world, because the combination of these mechanisms and the things that actually move as you're moving through a space, but you're feeling it, you're seeing it in VR. I think that's what I like about VR is how immersive it is. But yeah, when I think about like short term, what's going to make the biggest waves, it's definitely in my mind AR, just because there's so many retail applications that you're going to have so much funding going into how do we create digital experiences for people that blend well with our products and our IP. And I just think there's so much potential for AR in the short term. But then for me, for VR is just like, let's experience things that we've never that aren't possible, right? Like there's just so much that so far you can go when you're in a fully enclosed environment. But you look at it, even like Ready Player One, which was several years ago, you're looking at some of the tech that surrounds the VR, not just the headset, but you need the treadmills that go in all directions. You need the body suits that allow you to feel touch and vibrations and different things. And I think all that's coming. I mean, if you can dream it, it's going to happen at some point, right? But I think that we're still far away from, VR being fully immersive. And I don't know how it is for other people, but I play VR games and I get super nauseous. And I think that that's, something that they're going to have to attack and figure out, because I love VR, but if I'm in there for more than 20 or 30 minutes, it really starts to get, a little bit troublesome in terms of just feeling like I'm with it and not getting a headache. So I think those things have to improve with the tech as well. But yeah, like Spencer said, you have proven use cases of AR that are very like rudimentary on your phone, like Pokemon Go, that would just be 10 times more immersive if it was seamless and you could, not just capture the Pokemon, but battle them and, see them life size. I mean, there's just so much that could be there. And now, and then you take that and you you put on gloves that allow you to experience touch, and you're doing that with AR. I think we're going to get there, and we're going to get there relatively quickly. Probably, in the tech space, 5 to 10 years is going to be pretty quick, and we're going to see, wow, there's a lot we can do now that we weren't able to do 5 years ago.
Yeah, AR definitely feels like in this digital evolution, it feels like the next step, bridging the two worlds together before we become fully immersed in the digital space. And I love that you guys brought up Pokemon Go, because that's such an amazing case study. I think 50 million people download the app in the first few days. That's incredible. That's incredible. Now, what's interesting too about Pokemon Go is that you don't own these assets. You own your account, but you can't sell these individual assets that you collect. But imagine an opportunity using NFT technology. You could find these Pokemon, you could train them, they can grow, you can battle them in AR, which is going to be incredible. That maybe interacts with the environment that you're in, and then on top of that, you could sell these collectibles, you could trade them. So it's a win. It's a win for the consumer, but it's also a win for the licensor, because they're going to make commission off every single sale, and that's just a win-win for everyone.
Awesome. Amazing discussion on that first question here, but I think let's move on now to the first individual question, which is going to go to Ralph. So Nine Lives Arena is being built on Oasis, which I was not actually familiar with before and did a bunch of research on it. I'm very impressed with, so I'm excited to hear you talk about it. But it's an EVM compatible layer one chain, specifically focused on gaming, and it has validators like Sega, Square Enix, Bandai Namco, Ubisoft, some major players in the gaming space. So I'm curious why you guys decided to build on Oasis, and how has that partnership been beneficial for you guys in general, and for your recent launch on the Epic Game Store?
Hi. Yeah, good question. So one of the key things, 2022 was actually to look which chain we really need to go to, and there are a lot of options out there, and we did due diligence on a lot of them, and we had a number of boxes that need to get ticked, and in a way, Oasis was the one for us that did that. And Oasis is with a Y. There's another Oasis with an I, which is not the one, but it's the one you mentioned, with having all the traditional games publishers you mentioned backing it up. So for us, the thing I look at it is, I want new players that had never had any touch with wallets, with cryptocurrencies, with Web3, just the normal gamers that comes and plays our game because they find us through marketing or through browsing through the Epic Store. I want them to have a seamless experience. And Oasis is a layer. Oasis has layer twos around it. They are called verses, and we could have built our own verse, like a Nine Lives Arena verse, but we went with Homeverse. Homeverse also gonna host a Sega product and a Ubisoft product. And the reason we went with an existing verse is these are layer twos on Oasis, and they give us zero gas fees. So number one, zero gas fees is important, because we're going to drop NFTs as rare loot, and players will be able to craft NFTs like weapons and armors, and they will be able to trade them. So the hurdle number one, nobody needs to bother about gas fees. They don't need to own any coin to do any of that. They can just play. Secondly, the way we build it is that you can log in with social media if you want to be part of, you want to receive an NFT drop. So you get a social media login, and that creates a wallet for you. And you can be part of it. You can actually receive NFTs. You can trade NFTs without ever, really understanding much about it. But if one day you want to, you just can get your keys and then own a wallet. But some people will never interact with it, and the reason we're using a verse is we don't want to have our own token, our own cryptocurrency, because the moment you have your own token, you alienate the traditional players, because you really need to have a wallet and have a basic understanding to play a game that runs with its own token. So no, we didn't want that, so we don't have our own token. We're using Homeverse, and we looked at it from another point too, we are based in basically Canada, which is North America, and we have good understanding of the European market and the North American market, but we have very little competence when it comes to market a game or addressing PR in Asia. But Oasis is based in Japan, and the parts of their company Homeverse is in Singapore, and they have games in South Korea, and they have a very strong foothold in Asia, and that's very quickly growing. So for us, it's also key to have a partner that is strong in Asia where we are weak. So now we have a chain. We can allow players to play without gas and try everything out without ever investing into any coin, no technical understanding, and it's easy to use. And we're building a marketplace which comes out in this month, also in January. And what Oasis allowed us to do with Homeverse is create an on-ramp solution where you as a player, you could find an NFT in the game and you put it through the game onto the marketplace, and you put it out there for, let's say, 10 Oasis token, right? You sell it for 10 token. So a new player comes and says, oh, I want this, right? And he has no token. So he can use the on-ramp solution and buy this with credit card, which he's familiar with. So he buys it, and the seller receives the 10 OAS token on the background, right? It goes through the on-ramp solution. But the guy that was new to it, who just wanted to buy this, his first NFT ever, he used a credit card. So it's still running on the back end on Oasis, but it's seamless for new players to understand, and they don't yet have to go to an exchange and bring fiat into the crypto space and buy a token and all this. So at the end of the day, for us, it's a mixture of having the Asian presence, but also having a chain that is really scalable for the future. And when you have crafting as part of it, where players craft NFTs and loot, eventually, it can scale quite up with gas fees. And we wanted to take that away from all the players that because we have seen the pain gas fees can bring to an ecosystem. So yeah, we have a zero gas free situation, and yeah, we are super happy.
Awesome. Yeah, Oasis sounds like a really, really, really interesting chain. Yeah, I definitely want to do some more research on it. Definitely seems like it could be a good fit for some of the stuff we're working on potentially. We'll have to discuss it. But thank you. Really.
Yeah, it is. It is. Sorry, Spencer, just to jump in. Because I've been doing a lot of research on layer twos as well, and just alternate layer one chains. It is really cool to see, because it wasn't like this 2 years ago, that you didn't have chains specifically targeting, gaming related issues, high throughput. I think the leader early on, when we were getting started back in 2018, 2019 was Polygon. But since then, you've had so many chains emerge. I had the chance to meet with the ICP team several months back, and they're doing a great job with completely reimagining an infrastructure that, again, doesn't necessarily require gas to confirm transactions. So the fact that blockchains themselves and the protocols are evolving to support essentially different levels of decentralization and the needs of gaming has been really cool. But then you look at kind of the intersection there with also some of the things that third parties are doing. You look at companies like Third Web and Sequence, and there's a ton of others that are doing a great job breaking down those barriers to make even multi-chain possible. And you mentioned a lot of these things, the ability, for example, to back-end gas fees. You look at OpBNB just released a really, really efficient EVM compatible chain, which I think is super cool and something we're looking into. And so it's interesting to see so many chains emerging, and I think it's great. Like one of the things I've always found that's been difficult is a lot of developers developed their games for EVM compatible chains, and I think a lot of new chains that are popping up either have an EVM compatible option, or because they're not EVM compatible themselves, or they themselves are EVM compatible. And I like that it really does seem like the chains are not necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel, but to build on it for gaming. And I think what we're going to see is the emergence of many chains that all do a good job and all are focused on different markets. And I think that'll be the early phase. But I think what we're also going to see is lots of bridges, right? We're going to see it very easy, whether it's the game itself doing the bridge or, third parties. We're going to see the ability to go between chains. And, we might be based on Polygon, but then have an Oasis branch or a BNB branch or whatever it might be. And I'm really excited about hitting different markets through kind of the chains that are familiar to them and that they're using and that are being backed by these other companies. Because that's also, new eyeballs, different eyeballs that are entering the blockchain space, but they're entering through different hallways is kind of how I like to look at it. But if you can kind of build doors in those hallways and the tech to do that becomes better and better, which it is, I think it's exciting because theoretically one game could support 10 or 15 chains fairly seamlessly without kind of redoing their entire architecture, which is something that I'm very excited about, and we've been looking into kind of with a multi-chain approach. So yeah, definitely want to do some more research on Oasis. Is it an EVM compatible chain, or do they have like an EVM layer to support
Yeah.
smart contracts?
So that
Cool.
was one of the boxes that it needed to tick. We needed an EVM compatible chain, and it is 100% EVM compatible. And yeah, if you ever want me to introduce to them or something in the future, just reach out to me, no problem. They also, Oasis building their own wallet, but of course it's EVM compatible. You can use a wide range of wallets already. But yeah, they're making their own gaming focus wallet called Oasis Passport, which is currently already on Android and iOS in its first iteration. So yeah, it's like they're really pushing into this space, and again with the Oasis Passport, it has limited amount of features for a reason to not overwhelm new users. It's very simple, and probably still goes through a bunch of iterations, but it's really focused on new gamers and very simple, and it's NFT focused. It's not cryptocurrency focused to hold a lot of cryptocurrency. It's really a focus on NFTs, which I like a lot.
I love it. No, that sounds awesome. We'll definitely do some research, and yeah, I'd love to talk to the team at some point.
Awesome. Moving on with our next individual question here, which is going to be for Sean. So how do you view the evolution of digital collectibles in the next few years, and what trends do you foresee?
I'm really excited to see how this technology like the Apple Vision Pro is going to affect people in their own space, at their own house. Now, here's a great story that a good friend of ours, Giant Size Comics, big shout out to Giant Size Comics, he told us a story once where this collector collects original comic book art. And he hosted an event at his apartment that people traveled to all across the United States. They came to his apartment to look at his comic book art because apparently it was pretty epic. So that's really interesting because now you have digital collectibles. You have a lot of one-of-one pieces, or you have collectibles that have multiple editions, but they have special mint numbers that people put tremendous value on. And you have an opportunity, whether it's in the metaverse, to create museums where people can enjoy these collectibles worldwide. But also, there's an opportunity for renting, which is something I'm crazy excited about. Renting, I think, is going to be a huge impact, not just for the gaming industry, but also for the collectible industry. Hosting events, being able to showcase certain collectibles at your home using AR technology. I think that's an absolute game changer. And this is when we're going to finally seeing it becomes believing for a lot of these collectibles, because people can't really wrap their heads around it because the technology hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah, just to build on that, and it's not something that we talked specifically about, but I think when we think about what digital art could be in the era of VR and AR, and that could translate into digital collectibles and gaming as well. I like to think of these new technologies as a new canvas, right? We talk about, experiencing a really cool, digital collectible or being able to see that really rare, edition. But what happens if what the artist is creating is an experience in and of itself, and you can own that experience? I think of, one-of-one art that I spend 3-4 months creating, maybe licensed or even original IP, creating an experience. And that one-of-one art is sold to you, and then you're able to invite people into that experience. And maybe the experience is simply a space, right? An art piece that's built for a warehouse space that people can attend from all around the world, and all they need is an omnidirectional treadmill, or all they need is some sort of, large open space, a gymnasium floor, and you can have satellite, areas to have this digital experience, and people are going there with their VR or their AR glasses. I think that, my biggest criticism of the digital art space currently is that we're not doing enough with the canvases that we have. We're still creating art for flat surfaces. We're still, creating digital collectibles that can only really be experienced on a screen or on a phone. I think that's going to very quickly dissolve, because I think it's just so exciting to use this new canvas. And I know we as a studio are thinking about it, but artists I talk to are just like, all right, how do I create something different? Like, what is a one of one experience? Because I love the idea. I've seen some incredible art. I look at some of the stuff that Rafik Anadol does, for example, and I saw his MoMA exhibition in person, and it was awesome to see a 200-foot screen with this art on it, and people just in awe of how brilliant it is. But I think that's just scratching the surface. I mean, he did something at the new Vegas Sphere that, like, mind blowing as well, but it's still a screen on a wall. I imagine let's take the training wheels off and give a VR environment as a canvas and say, go play with it, go run with it. And I think we are going to see things in VR from some of the top creatives that just we can't even think about, because we don't reach that level of creativity, or we don't have that idea. But I think we're going to see creatives just blow our minds in a way that we haven't kind of seen since, the world fairs of, 50, 60 years ago. I think we're going to see just innovations in art and expression that are, really, really innovative and different. And, I'm excited for that. I think, digital collectibles, it, like you said, it's just going to open us up to possibilities that just aren't currently present.
Yeah, on the collectible side as well, this is something that I haven't really heard talked about elsewhere. So we on Comics and Crypto, we recently interviewed Pogs Digital, Kyler, who's the CEO and founder of that, who we've actually had on our spaces before. But they're doing something really interesting where they're actually taking the original physical collectibles. So if you're not familiar with Pogs were these little like cardboard milk cap collectibles with these cool designs on them, and there was a game around it. They're really, really popular in the 90s. Like they were in, they were all over the world. Like almost every country had them. Huge phenomena. But as a lot of things do, they kind of died off. But they're being kind of re-envisioned in this space. So they've been releasing digital native pogs recently. But one of the things that they're doing is they kind of created a grading service where they're accepting original pogs that people, from their physical collections, where they can send them in to the company, get them graded, and then once they're graded, then they're uploaded and basically turned into an NFT, and then can be used in the digital space as well. So this idea of like kind of repurposing physical collectibles and allowing them to be used and reused again in the digital space, I think is a really cool concept, and something that could be translated to a lot of different collectibles. Like something like talking about some of these bigger publishers like Yu-Gi-Oh! I think is a really cool example of where this could work. Because like I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show for Yu-Gi-Oh, but like they're literally putting down the physical cards in the TV show, and then on their blade thing, and then all of a sudden the the Yu-Gi-Oh monster, Blue Eyes White Dragon, shows up in front of them and battles the guy across from them. Like that's something that you could pretty easily do in a crossover type environment with AR, where you have your original physical Yu-Gi-Oh card from 20 years ago, but you put it down because it's in some special grading case now on a special platform, and now in AR that NFT now pops up in front of you. You can actually battle with it in front of you. Something like that. But yeah, I really like the idea of kind of like the crossing over of physical and digital, and where that can meet. But yeah, so that was just a thought I had. Moving on, Nick, we have an individual question for you. So how do you see comic IPs evolving through gaming, and how can Web3 be used to enhance this evolution?
Excellent question, Spencer. Um, I guess how do I see it evolving? I think comics are awesome. I have enjoyed reading comics my entire life. I grew up around comics, but it doesn't appeal to everybody in this new interactive gaming age, right? Like, not everybody wants to bust open a physical comic book and read. Not everybody wants to, even look at a digital comic book and read. And even with when we talk about all the cool things we can do digitally with AR for comics, and what we've seen is, if you want comic IPs to be consumed by the masses, we have to make it more interactive, more visual. And we've seen that, right? We've seen what Hollywood did to the comic industry, and how successful, the DC universe and the Marvel universe has been for people who both were comic fans and people who weren't comic fans, right? You've got Wonder Woman fans who have never opened a comic book in their life, but these are, comic IPs that are progressing through a new medium. And so I think, just like we've seen it in the kind of traditional movie space and on the screens, we're seeing it in the gaming space. And we're seeing some of the top games are originally, comic IPs, and we're seeing that those can be much more interactive when presented as an IP, as a gaming experience, because you have the ability to actually engage with the story rather than just reading it and imagining. I think what the cool thing with comic books and games specifically is that, comic books don't have a ton of very detailed story, right? They have a few lines, and then they let the pictures do a lot of the storytelling. I think games can often be the same way, where you have, a little bit of story interspersed within kind of a create your own type of experience with beautiful environments and fun gameplay. And so I think that, you can tell game stories that are back in games in a similar way to which comic stories are told, and vice versa. Essentially take comic stories and gamify them in certain ways. And I think it's going to open a lot of opportunities. I think where Web3 could potentially start to, enhance this is, I guess for me, Web3 is all about ownership, and it always goes back to ownership. And you always ask the question, does, owning digital IP or digital, assets generally, is there a value to owning it? And I think when it comes to these alternate universes that we create in comics, one of the cool things about both the Web3 space and the comic space is this idea of identity. I think for years, people have imagined themselves as superheroes, but it's usually and often the superheroes they are presented with, right? But what if those superheroes could be customized? And what if, we get into this digital era with AI that reduces the barriers, and now you have a little kid dreaming up their own superhero, but that superhero can be owned, and now, by creating that superhero and owning it, you can now go use it in a game that supports those avatars. And now you have this sense of identity and story within a universe, but that identity is yours. So when you think about, the idea of identity in the metaverse, the idea of identity within gamified universes, and specifically comic universes, I think there's going to be that, that little kid in all of us, whether we're little kids or not, that want to be something different, right? And we want to be something different across different spaces. And so I think, when we think about what makes comics special, it is activating all of those, the receptors in our brains that are saying, hey, what could life be like as a superhero? What could, the world be like if I had superpowers? I think we're going to have superpowers in VR and AR and in video games. I mean, we already have them. So what if, as that progresses, as technology allows us to be more customized and allow these heroes to not be a hero that someone else created, but maybe someone else creates the universe, and it's one of many comic universes, and we are a hero living within multiple universes. I mean, you could kind of go way down a rabbit hole on the possibilities for having kind of comic themed identities within, the Web3 space, but the metaverse space and game space more generally. And I think we've seen it, right? We've seen that comic IP as identities is sought after. We've seen, for better or for worse, we saw the PFP run, and people associated with all these different comic IPs, whether it was the apes or Azuki or whatever it might be, the CryptoPunks, these are all had that cartoony comic aesthetic, and people really enjoyed that because it isn't super realistic. And I think you could talk about completely fantasy comic IPs, or you could talk about something more realistic, right? Where you do have kind of a superhero that's molded after yourself. And I think that there's just going to be so many opportunities for interactive storytelling, and gamified experiences for the comic space. And I think it's an excellent direction for the comic space to evolve in, as it's in a bit of a rut. You saw traditional comic reading has gone down. Comic IPs have suffered. And so when we start to think, what do we do with these characters that people know and love? What is next? I think it's interactive experiences. I think it's the ability to actually be part of a world rather than just read about it or see it. I think that's the next step. And I don't know that Web3 is necessarily going to take us there. I think there's a lot of other digital technologies that are going to do more. But I think Web3 will underpin basically the creation incentive, right? All the monetary, all the economy that supports these really cool experiences, I think, are going to be powered by the blockchain on the back end. And so I think you're just going to see stuff again that just blows people's minds.
Awesome. Well, we're coming up to the end of the space here, so I want to announce our giveaway winner right now. So the winner this week of an 8mo Army NFT trading card, which is a legendary rarity card, is Storm Virtual Labs at Storm V Labs. Congratulations. Please send us a DM and we'll make sure to get you your prize. But Nick, I'll pass it back to you to close us up.
Yes. So thank you, everybody who joined. It really has been a pleasure talking with you guys. I always feel like these hours fly by, but I know that everybody is super, super busy and doing some awesome stuff, which we heard about today. So thank you for giving us that hour of your time. We definitely appreciate you guys, and we appreciate everybody who showed up live to listen. It's always nice to see a nice little audience, and to be presenting to a crowd. So thank you for joining. Also, thank you to everyone who watches the recorded versions, as I know, it's not always easy for people around the world to wake up at 3 a.m. just for the Hideout. So we know you'll catch it later, and we appreciate you guys keeping tuning in. We do this every week, and we'll be doing it again, I think, Tuesday of next week. This week was a special Wednesday episode because of the break, but we'll be back on Tuesday. I'll pause. I don't know if any of you guys have something you want to plug or just let people know about one last time. But after we say our goodbyes, I'll shut down the space. But thank you all for joining so much. And I really look forward to keeping the conversation going and seeing how we can work together.
Thank you so much thank you, Nick, for having me. It's been a lot of fun today, and I'm really excited for the future of the space. It's incredibly exciting being a part of it for the past couple of years. And it's the repetitive theme, but it's only the beginning, and I'm very excited to see where this is all going. And also, just everyone out there, we're currently running a giveaway for a graded ELF VHS tape. VHS tapes are very highly collectible now. People are very excited about it, and they're now grading VHS tapes, and we're giving away this ELF VHS tape right now. So if you're interested in getting involved in the giveaway, make sure to click the pinned tweet above and get involved. It's a really cool collectible.
Yeah, thank you again for having me, and I wish everybody a great year. Okay, until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Talk soon.